Hello, glad you can join us. Here's what's happening this Monday. The desperate search for survivors after deadly flash floods.
Force of that water was so insane. Nobody could get into it.
Unspeakable loss in Texas. A summer camp for girls swept away.
Yeah, it's really horrible for her. Horrible.
Families speak out about Canadian loved ones snagged by ice and in detention.
Given that they had worked on this for over a year, we would have thought that would have been worked out.
Plus, the new Toronto concert venue getting a cold reception.
CTV National News with Sandy Ronaldo.
An urgent search is underway for survivors in Texas after more than 90 people were killed in deadly flash flooding. Among them, dozens of children and their counselors at a Christian summer camp. People swept to their deaths after water rose quickly. Some 4 months of rain in just hours, and there's more on the way. CTV's Adrian Gobriel in the U.S. Capitol now on the tragedy and criticism being levied at Washington for the slow response to impending danger. Adrian?
Sandy, even before this tragedy, concerns were raised about budget cuts to the National Weather Service. A director for that agency has now said that there was adequate staffing and timely forecasts issued in the lead up to the deadly surge. The White House calling Friday morning's flash flood a once-in-a-century event. As the search for survivors intensifies, the full scale of this deadly disaster is coming into focus. This footage shares a glimpse of just some of the 850 life and death high water rescues that took place. Hundreds of state and federal first responders and more than a dozen canine units are on the ground, including volunteers on foot and horseback.
If it was my babies, I'd want somebody looking, so that's why I'm here.
Dozens of children have been confirmed dead, with another 10 campers and 1 counselor, as of this morning, still missing from Camp Mystic, a Christian girls' camp.
I've lost near friends, best friends, my boss, my godchildren, my house, my car.
The camp, perched along the Guadalupe River, saw floodwaters rise 8 meters in just 45 minutes. 2 hours north, in Kingsland, Texas, this time-lapse shows just how quickly floodwaters rose.
You know that your child is going to be swimming and canoes and horseback riding and doing archery and making lifetime friends. And then suddenly it turns to tragedy.
With the National Weather Service saying their flood warnings were timely and accurate, questions about weather alerts reached those most at risk remain, with the mayor of Kerrville, Texas, admitting he never received one.
Everyone here, if we could have warned them, we would have done so. And we didn't even have a warning. We did not know.
The city manager of Kerrville asked today why an evacuation order wasn't issued.
It's very tough to make those calls because what we also don't want to do is cry wolf.
An answer that will bring little comfort to those who've lost so much. With the U.S. president signing a major disaster declaration for Kerr County, Texas, federal emergency management agency resources have been deployed as ongoing discussions to close down FEMA are still taking place, according to a White House spokesperson today.
Right.
Sandy.
Adrian Gobriel. The U.S. president also signed and sent off letters today to several countries, including 2 major trading partners. Donald Trump posted about identical letters addressed to the leaders of Japan and South Korea, informing them of 25% tariffs starting August the 1st. More letters in this stepped-up trade war will go to countries that haven't negotiated deals with the U.S. Canada was not included in those reciprocal tariffs and is trying to get a trade deal by July the 21st. Let's bring in CTV senior political correspondent Mike Licouture. Okay, Mike, Japan and South Korea, plus others, facing a reciprocal tariff rate of 25%. Are we watching the art of the deal at play here?
Yeah, that is how they're trying to frame it. But you have to wonder whether that's actually the case, Sandy, when you consider those tariffs were supposed to come into play on Wednesday. Instead, they're going to be coming in on August the 1st. Now, there have been a number of other letters that have gone out. Let's take a look at this preliminary list that we had seen earlier today. And, of course, it included Malaysia, Kazakhstan, South Africa, Laos, and Myanmar. A number of other countries have subsequently been added. You also have in Indonesia, Thailand, Bangladesh, and Serbia, a number of them now on that list. As you mentioned, Canada is not. We heard from a Canadian source that Dominic LeBlanc, the minister responsible for trade with the United States, did have a conversation last week with Howard Lutnick, unsure if he's going to have another one shortly. But certainly a White House spokesperson saying today that these letters are putting world leaders on notice.
They will take the letters seriously because they have taken the president seriously, and that's why the president's phone, I can tell you, rings off the hook from world leaders all the time who are begging him to come to a deal.
Okay, Mike, every time Donald Trump threatens tariffs, the financial markets react. What happened today?
Yeah, certainly a lot of reaction, and especially, Sandy, when you consider that his whole measure for this and the barometer is how the stock market is doing. So he'll likely look at this and take notice. You consider the Dow Jones, the NASDAQ, and the S&P all took hits by about 1%. And if you want to zoom in on some stocks in particular, Japanese automakers, they took a hit as well. Toyota down 1.25%, Honda down 1.5%, and then Nissan, that took a 5% hit. So certainly the message is being sent to Japan, but you have to wonder whether that message will be coming back to the U.S. when he sees all of those other stock markets and the hits that they are taking, Sandy.
Okay, Mike, as always, thanks so much. Now we have to thank Donald Trump's trade war against Canada for those ongoing negotiations between provinces. Today, it was the premiers of Alberta and Ontario who signed a memorandum to boost trade and cooperation. But there's some skepticism over whether this is the answer. CTV's Rachel Aiello with how discussions went today and why there's doubt these deals will compensate for the pain of tariffs. Hi, Rachel.
Sandy, while more trade barriers are coming down, there's skepticism that these efforts will generate anywhere close to the economic boost that some politicians are promoting.
Free trade being one within all the provinces that will add over $200 billion to our economy.
Ontario Premier Doug Ford touting the potential of Canada-wide free trade after signing new agreements with Alberta to advance energy infrastructure and support the automotive and alcohol manufacturing sectors.
Today's signing marks an historic partnership founded in a mutual ambition to reach the full potential of our provinces.
This deal is the latest in a series of policy moves made in recent months to try and limit the damage caused by U.S. President Donald Trump's trade war by breaking down interprovincial trade barriers. Though a new report out today from a left-leaning think tank argues that the notion that resolving such issues could lead to more than $200 billion in economic gains is pure fantasy. One of its authors cautions the cost of cutting this red tape could result in a race to the bottom for safety and service standards.
I think Canadians need to be wary, and they need to be cautious anytime they see a government saying they're doing something to respond to a national emergency, right?
Meanwhile, one of the authors of the report where the $200 billion estimate originated acknowledged politicians have overstated his estimate.
It's also an estimate that we put forward that represents the maximum possible gains from fully eliminating all of the internal trade barriers in Canada, which so far no government has put anything on the table to actually achieve that objective.
Today, Internal Trade Minister Chrystia Freeland's office said the federal government knows there's more work to do, and that work will continue tomorrow when the ministers responsible for internal trade from each province and territory meet in Quebec City. Sandy?
Okay, Rachel, thank you. Regulations imposed by the Trump administration and implemented by ICE, that's the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency, have led to a crackdown and caught in the web some 50 Canadians detained by ICE. One has died in custody, and it's left other families worried about their loved ones. CTV's Heather Wright spoke to relatives of one woman who's been detained for 3 months. Heather.
Well, Sandy, the family is terrified and desperate to get their daughter back. It's been nearly 4 months since Paula Kaleos was detained, part of the Trump administration's crackdown on immigration. And the family says they are struggling to get even basic information from American authorities.
Maria Estela Cano was there the night her daughter was arrested in Florida back in April and has been fighting to get her out ever since.
That is really horrible for her. Horrible. You say,
They punish people for nothing.
Cano says her daughter, Paula Callejas, was arrested after getting into a fight with her boyfriend, who she scratched after he shoved her to the ground. The Canadian designer was living in Florida, where she was building her swimwear business and waiting for her visa application to be processed. After she was arrested, she was handed over to Immigration and Customs Enforcement, known as ICE. Calleja's mother says her daughter has been moved to multiple detention centers, sometimes crammed 6 people to a cell. She says her daughter's anxiety medication has been taken away, and she worries about her well-being.
She's scared too much. She's scared. And she's saying, Mommy, I'm asking, but please let me go. Like, why keep her there?
Global Affairs Canada says at least 50 Canadians are currently in ICE custody, though that number fluctuates. At least one Canadian, Jasmine Mooney, has been released. She was held for nearly 2 weeks in March after trying to get her work visa renewed. Last month, Canadian Johnny Noviello died while in ICE custody. His death is under investigation.
And Caleo's family says it was the death of Noviello that prompted them to speak out. And while they are able to communicate with their daughter multiple times a week, they say her mental health is suffering and they worry she might not make it home alive. Sandy.
CTV's Heather Wright. New details have been revealed about the prison attack that led to the death of BC serial killer Robert Pikton. Corrections Canada says another inmate attacked Pikton in the common room at the maximum security Port Cartier institution last year. Guards stopped the initial attack, but the inmate proceeded to break off a broom handle and thrust the jagged edge into the killer's face. Robert Pikton was convicted of 6 counts of murder, but is believed to have killed dozens more women in British Columbia. Concern in Toronto ahead of 4 concerts, the first tonight by one of the world's biggest bands. Coldplay takes to the stage of the city's new Rogers Stadium, an open-air arena that's already plagued by problems, as we hear from CTV's Rahim Ladani near the stadium. Okay, Rahim, what are the issues and concerns?
Sandy, this 50,000-seat open-air facility behind me is going to be filled with fans of the British rock band Coldplay. However, the venue is already being scrutinized for poor planning. Lining up more than 9 hours before the gates even open, these dedicated Coldplay fans are dressed up, have traveled from around the world.
We are from Guadalajara, Mexico.
And first in line, hoping to get the perfect view of their favorite band.
We got the umbrella. We got water, snacks, washroom wise, we did the business in the morning.
Coldplay is set to play the first of 4 shows at the new Rogers Stadium near Downsview Park in Toronto's North End. It's the venue's second concert after the inaugural show ended in chaos. Last week, people waited up to 2 hours trying to leave the stadium as 50,000 concertgoers searched for nearby subway and GO train stations, overwhelming transit.
People were fainting or falling down.
Concert promoter Live Nation Canada says, "We've made key adjustments based on fan and community feedback, including updated traffic plans with road closures, more traffic personnel on site, and enhanced signage and communication to help improve the experience for fans and the community." However, area residents say they've been left in the dark.
They're closing pretty much the main artery of our entry and exit for this neighborhood, and without any communication to us at all.
This open-air stadium is the largest purpose-built outdoor concert venue in Toronto. However, it will eventually be torn down to make way for mixed-use developments. While it is temporary, it will first play host to major acts for several more years.
It's a concert whether you want it or not. Every week, every summer for the next 5 years. How is this fair to anybody?
Now, Coldplay has a very famous lyric, "The lights will guide you home." However, concert goers and area residents hope that guidance doesn't come with gridlock. Sandy.
Okay, Rahim, thank you. Coming up after the break.
There are pillars of various communities who we would never expect to consider leaving the province.
Testing the patience of some family doctors when we return. Some flights have resumed in Kelowna, BC after a wildfire closed the airport and prompted evacuations. The fire has now stopped spreading. The Whelan Creek fire had come dangerously close to some homes. More concerning now, the situation in Lytton, BC, where a wildfire has grown to more than 2 square kilometers. Now in northern Manitoba, a new wildfire is raging, and it has residents of Thompson on high alert, ready to leave their homes at a moment's notice. CTV's Alex Karpa spoke to officials about preparations underway. Alex, what did they tell you?
Well, Sandy, evacuations are ongoing in several towns and First Nations throughout northern Manitoba. The town of Leaf Rapids, with over 300 people, is just the latest community under threat.
The northern Manitoba town announced a mandatory evacuation order on social media this morning, with all residents being asked to leave by 10 a.m. tomorrow. The town of Lynn Lake, which is northwest of Leaf Rapids, is now mostly evacuated, with just essential workers left. A fire nearby is threatening to destroy the main transmission line that provides power to the town. Mayor Brandon Dulowich says the community needs more firefighting resources.
There's major fires threatening several communities in the north here, and sounds like some higher priorities than us, so that's not reassuring news.
Tatasqueya Cree Nation, also known as Split Lake, is dealing with out-of-control wildfires which destroyed at least 7 homes in that community. The city of Thompson, which is the largest community in northern Manitoba with about 13,000 people, is monitoring a relatively new fire about 8 kilometers north of the city. They declared a state of emergency this afternoon. Also in the region, Nisitchawayasik Cree Nation declared a state of local emergency on Sunday. Medical evacuations are also underway in South Indian Lake and Pimicikamat Cree Nation.
It is dangerous, and people don't realize how quickly these fires flare up. Pretty scary.
The situation is rapidly changing hour by hour here in Manitoba. There are 81 active fires throughout the province, and over a dozen of those fires are either threatening or impacting several communities. Sandy.
Alex Karpa. On the East Coast, not fires, but family doctors who are feeling the pressure. They are pushing back against new patient targets introduced by PEI. CTV's Maria Saru is here now with the measures fueling the friction. Maria?
Sandy, both sides agree the goal is a deal that benefits both patients and doctors. But how to get there has led to a heated dispute.
In some of PEI's clinics, hallways are filled with frustration.
We desperately need new bodies here to help us with the work. Back up a year ago, we had a lot of optimism, we had a lot of hope.
Now that hope is turning to concern after a groundbreaking physician services agreement was signed last year.
A draft operational guide from Health PEI outlines expectations that doctors say blindsided them.
There's no way that we're going to be able to perform patient care at near the level that our patients expect and deserve.
Proposed targets include 1,600 patients per full-time family doctor, 24 appointments per day, with an average of 15 minutes per visit.
Doctors argue it's unsustainable, particularly on an island with an aging population and the country's highest rate of adults without a regular doctor. They say the targets may push some physicians out.
There are pillars of various communities who we would never expect to consider leaving the province, who are considering leaving the province.
But Health PEI insists the targets are fair and flexible.
CEO Melanie Fraser says 1,600 patients is a maximum, and most family doctors will have a lower target, tailored to their staff, services, and community demographics.
We sit down with each physician and we say, are you part-time or are you full-time? Do you have staff in your office? How complex are your patients?
The Medical Society of PEI, which represents doctors, says it has already signaled it wants mediation. Physicians have until Friday to send the province their feedback on the proposal. Sandy.
Maria, thank you. Still ahead, a crime that captured the attention of a country. The verdict is in for an accused killer and her unusual weapon of choice. Israel's prime minister is on his 3rd visit to Washington in 6 months as the U.S. brokers talks for a ceasefire in Gaza and a hostage deal with Hamas. The U.S. president will host Benjamin Netanyahu behind closed doors. Trump has floated a plan for an initial 60-day ceasefire that would include a partial release of hostages held by Hamas, along with an increase in humanitarian aid getting in. A somber anniversary was marked in the UK today, 20 years since the July 7th terror attacks on London's subway system. 52,000 flower petals fell in St. Paul's Cathedral in tribute to the 52 who died when 4 homegrown terrorists detonated suicide bombs on a London bus and 3 tube trains. Prince William paid tribute by laying flowers on a memorial plaque in Hyde Park. And an Australian woman has been found guilty of murdering 3 relatives, including her in-laws, with deadly mushrooms.
She was always guilty in my eyes, no matter what. 3 people get killed from a lunch. It doesn't just happen like that.
Erin Patterson served beef Wellington laced with poisonous death cap mushrooms to family members at her home in 2023. It led to the deaths of the parents of her estranged husband and his aunt. His uncle survived after weeks in a coma. After the break, high tide for tourists, the economic boom pulling into Halifax Harbor. The cruise ship season has been steaming along on Canada's east coast since the port of Halifax welcomed the first massive vessel of the year in early April. CTV's Paul Hollingsworth has been watching the ships come in. And Paul, are you seeing lots of folks come ashore?
Sandy, the cruise ship schedule in this part of the country is bringing thousands of visitors here daily. A sunny day marks the arrival of another cruise ship.
Now we're into like a ship almost every day.
Over the next week and a half, 10 ships will visit the Halifax waterfront. A massive influx of people will see the sights, take pictures, walk the boardwalk, and even go for a bike ride.
Seeing new places, revisiting old places. We were here, like my wife said, about 20 years ago.
The cruise industry is booming. It brings 350,000 passengers to this region each year aboard more than 200 ships.
We've cruised a number of times before, and it's a nice way to get introduced to a number of different destinations without actually having to unpack and travel to those destinations. The hotel travels with us, so to speak.
Overall, the number of visitors in Halifax grew almost 20% last year compared to 2023.
Number one clientele on cruise ships would be Americans. But after that, you know, we get a lot of Canadians, we get a lot of Brits, a lot of Germans. And we're getting like a whole variety of cultures from all over Europe, more so than we've gotten in a long time.
Many associate the cruise ship season as only being in the summertime, but these massive vessels come here until mid-November. Sandy.
Okay, Paul, thank you. And thank you for sharing your time with us. I'm Sandy Ronaldo. Your local CTV News is coming up. We'll see you tomorrow, we hope. Have a lovely evening. Bye for now.